trying to light a candle, but I keep burning myself.
Just use a fire resistance potion. You'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Legality and justice are strange concepts, aren't they? On one hand, there is an imposter among us. Oh, funny meme. Someone who, through extreme displays of power and intimidation, have created a really fun game. And on the other hand, the council can't simply ignore the threats that were made in the process. Especially not after the attack on Riverwood. This riddle man needs to be brought to justice, and if we convict tonight, we can put him away. And with myself as judge and Evan as prosecutor, we could bring a case towards the parliament to convict the most likely suspect.
Alright, everybody be quiet. All rise.
Hear ye, hear ye. I call you all to the stand for the trial of for the trial of Dregnum. As such, I will don my robes. and my hair.
Judge, may I just say you look dashing today.
Don't flirt with me. The prosecution brings forward one charge of setting up a really cool game, and another charge of threatening the safety of an entire city. I call the prosecution to the stand.
What happens if I'm found guilty?
Well, no, it's just opening statement, dude.
Yeah, don't you mean opening statement?
Yeah, opening statements. Opening statements. In case you couldn't realize by now, I have no knowledge of how court hearings work.
Your Honor, hold on, let me get the music. Your Honor, it has come to our attention that the defendant had set up a really cool game for us all to play. And while it is cool, they are adamantly refusing that they're the one at fault in this. Which is especially concerning considering the fact that they had threatened the safety of Boofington. The prosecution wishes to prove that he is guilty of this act and show that he is guilty.
The defense would like to make an opening statement.
Of course.
What are you the defense?
No, I'm the defense.
You see, my client here.
No, I don't know who this guy is. I actually have all my own.
Quiet.
I'm going to lose this if he's defending me.
I have evidence
so
to support
I've never.
otherwise.
Can someone escort him out?
Order in my court. Drew, who is defending you?
Me.
You can't
He
do
can
this.
defend himself.
You have a right to defend yourself. That's a thing.
But that's illegal because I'm not an attorney.
No, this is an ace attorney trial. We just do whatever shit works.
Oh, okay, that works.
Yeah.
That works.
All right.
No, trust me. We'll be presenting evidence halfway through the fucking trial.
that
It's
works.
relevant.
That works.
Your Honor, simply put, I have never seen any of these locations that we've traveled to in my entire life.
Objection. We have been to, save for the water temple, all of those locations before. That is a
I would
blatant
like-
lie by the defense, Your Honor.
Can I please just, say stuff?
Yeah,
Give your
sorry.
opening- give your opening
Opening
statement.
statement.
So, simply put, I think these claims that I am guilty of doing these heinous acts are just unfounded. I have not done any of these things. I have much evidence to prove it. Also, in light of recent events with my town, I wouldn't even think about doing any of these heinous crimes to the great town of Boofingham.
I would like to submit evidence that Drew thought the town name was Boofington.
I call the prosecution to bring forth evidence.
All right. Firstly, some evidence that we have from the actual
Scene of the
investigation are 5 of the books in question. Books
5
1, 2,
of the
3,
books?
4, and the finale. We do not know the location of the other books. However, one important piece of evidence in spite of that is the fact that we do have 5 of the books. Because that would imply that Drew had access and was the one to obtain 5 of the books, which is a considerable majority of them.
May I do my rebuttal? You guys know me. You know me.
I don't.
I very much like to be the best at everything I do.
Bailiff, put your crossbow down.
You've seen it time and time again. In previous servers, I have gone way ahead to be the first to kill the Ender Dragon, and in many more cases, I've always wanted to be the very best, like no one ever was. This very fun scavenger hunt that we all went on was no different. I wanted to be the very best in completing the scavenger hunt, and so I went ahead, and I did collect most of the books first. However, this does not mean that I created the puzzle, simply because how sad would it be to do my own scavenger hunt ahead of everybody else? It's simply ridiculous that you guys think that I even would put this whole thing together, because I did not.
Your Honor, while that is a valid point, there is still the argument standing that perhaps he was just coming up with the books as he went along, making sure that they still got in our hands. And this is prevalent in a lot of these clues, where as soon as we eventually gave up on an idea, Drew had somehow just found the clue in one of those spots. Even though we were discussing that it possibly couldn't be the end portal where we were doing it, Drew immediately dug under the end portal to where the chest was. When we were done checking that specific ravine, Drew went back in on his own and found the cave.
The point still stands that I like to do my best to try to get ahead and to be ahead of the curveball. Just because I had a good idea that nobody had considered yet doesn't mean that I planted that there. If I did put this together, I definitely would not have wanted to lead you guys along. That's just lame.
As a witness, during the first clue, I had been there first, and Mr. Drew here walked up to the thing first and was like, blah, 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 and grabbed it. And then he didn't do that for the second one. I actually did that. And the third one, I didn't get to do that either. But for the fourth one, I got to pick it up. However, what I will note, when we did the one in the water, Drew had already gotten there and then said, hey guys, I found it. I don't think he was trying to tell, and this is just me playing devil's advocate maybe, but he had found it and was like, guys, I think it's in this ravine. I couldn't remember. To give him credit, there were like 3 ravines near my ship.
Don't nod your head at me, Drew.
I would argue that there are more times that Drew did that than he didn't. However, I think everybody's too accusing right now of Drew, but that's just me.
And again, that does make sense that it's not expected that Drew would get all of them, but it is the fact that Drew was the one to not only find a lot of them, but to find a lot of them on the specifically very hard clues that we couldn't do. For example, the clue for getting on top of your tree, that one was very obvious what it was. Drew was not the first one up there.
Yes, I was.
Okay, thanks for helping us.
Objection. I was the first one up. Can I rebut this again?
Overruled. Evan, continue.
But you could still argue that Drew couldn't be the one to organize it. I have evidence otherwise. I would like to argue that not only is Drew very likely to be the one who did this, Drew is the only one who could have.
Care to elaborate?
I would love to elaborate. You're on.
I object. I don't think Drew's that smart. He may look like Harry Potter. And no offense, Drew, you're very...
I would like to summon a witness. I would like to summon Jimbies. Now, Jimbies, could you explain what you saw when you went to get the chest by the waterfall? Book 5.
I found the chest in the waterfall. But I opened it and there was blocks of iron, but there wasn't any books.
The book was found later, and we were able to continue with the hunt. I would like to present some evidence. In light of there being a missing clue from the chest, the prosecution would assert that Drew had simply forgotten to put the book in the chest and had panicked once we found out that there wasn't one. For that reason, it can only be Drew who did it. I would like to also move on to how he did it.
I hope you guys are all getting this, because I have a lot of rebuttals to do.
Order. Evan, continue.
Before Drew gives his rebuttals of inevitably, yeah, I know it's stacked against me, but I didn't do it, I promise. There is some other evidence to prove that it was only Drew who could do it. Drew has tried to claim that the person who did it possibly used creative. I do not think that's the case. I'm willing to believe that Drew was so dedicated that he went and mined 64 diamonds. For one reason. I don't have a book that supports this evidence. However, Drew, what enchantments are on your pickaxe?
Well, you see, I do have Fortune 3 on my pickaxe, but I haven't gone on a mining trip in a very long time.
What other enchantments does your pickaxe have?
Efficiency 4, Unbreaking 3, and Mending. So, Evan, are you done with your onslaught?
I have more.
Before I forget about some of the points you've made, the first thing I'd like to say is, from the very beginning, I didn't even think this was, like, a full idea yet. I didn't even think that this would be a huge adventure.
The longer this trial goes on, the more I feel like something's not right here. And the more I begin to sympathize with the guy I was previously hell-bent on convicting tonight. As much as I'm trying to find Drew innocent, Evan is damn good at his fucking job. Let's explore this a little bit, because I can't ignore the possibility that it wasn't you. And my thoughts lie on this. Who else in our server has the resources and capability to do something like this? I am starting to think more and more that Drew didn't do this. For a couple of reasons. Number one, this was amazing, and it was awesome, and I see no reason why he wouldn't take credit for it.
Exactly. Can I just comment on that for a second?
Of course.
Because I forgot about this. I actually was thinking about making a scavenger hunt for all of us, and I'm very upset that I was not the first to get to it. Actually, this was just like a thought I had after like the destruction of my house. Like wow, these guys all came like together for me, and I'd like to do something for them. But I would definitely not threaten the destruction of another building, because I lived through that firsthand and I did not like it one bit. So I would totally stay away from that.
I would like to point that Drew immediately tried to take the entire block of netherite, and if he was doing this in creative, I believe that he would have taken that netherite and immediately tried to throw it away. And then we all counterpointed and being like, don't do that, and he panicked and had to give us all some netherite.
Like, I had bigger fish to fry with my house and like with the chapel that I still haven't completed, and the paths and everything. Like, there was simply not enough time for me to go and mine that much netherite.
Well, we've all gone over the evidence to suggest that Drew did, in fact, author this game. I've been taking notes, and there are things that don't add up with it. While the evidence that we do have strongly suggests that Drew did this, there are things within your evidence that don't add up. There are other moments that you have failed to mention that could potentially prove Drew's innocence. I don't remember which book it was, either 6 or 7, the book after 7. And it was like the abandoned lands.
Oh, that one's in the chest, I think.
Yeah. When Drew first read that, he couldn't read abandoned. He didn't read it as abandoned.
To say it.
Why would he fail to read a word that he wrote? Why then would Drew twice fail to read his own writing? Drew would absolutely take credit for it in a heartbeat. I know this man, and I know that he wouldn't make something like this and then be like, nah, I didn't do it. Who else could it be if it wasn't Drew?
That doesn't matter because it was Drew.
We don't know that, and if it wasn't Drew, there's no one else on this server that has as much resources or capability as you do. You must admit
You're speculating and saying that I did it on no evidence. I would like to say something very, very important.
Okay.
Throughout this entire trial, I have given you piece of evidence after piece of evidence after piece of evidence. There's been rebuttals, there's been stuff. The important thing is that every counter-argument, almost every counter-argument that Drew's made has just been, it's a coincidence. That does not prove his innocence in the slightest. That's just him saying that everything's a coincidence. But when you have enough coincidences that stack on top of each other, it stops being a coincidence and starts being a proof of guilt.
I'm gonna...
Sorry, I just went full philosopher by accident there.
I'm gonna move to closing statements, and then I will take a recess to collect my thoughts. Drew, I'll start with you.
The fact that all of these points have come together against me is simply just false. I did not create this elaborate adventure for all of us, as much as I would have liked to own up to it. Every piece of evidence having to do with the books was simply a coincidence out of my striving to be the best man. This has also carried over to the end when I wanted to keep all of the netherite for myself. It is simply out of my greed that I continued on forward and created many of the coincidences that Evan has laid out.
Thank you, Drew. Evan?
As I said before, I have provided more than enough evidence to prove that, at the very least, Drew is extremely suspicious of this crime. When I presented that evidence, Drew had always given a rebuttal that never amounted to more than, it looks bad, I know, but it wasn't me, I promise. That is not a valid defense in my book. I have given actual evidence to state that he did this, and he has not done the same in return. Because he doesn't have any, because he's guilty.
Thank you, Evan.
May I make an amendment to my closing statement?
No, that's not a closing statement.
I'm not allowed to provide evidence.
It's called a closing statement for a reason.
I
But
guess
Your
me
Honor,
just having
I
to
have one
tag it
more
in here is
piece of
fine.
evidence.
Do you now?
Yes. See, Drew has a really big schlong, okay? Now just hear me out, hear me out. Why would he use big schlong energy on little schlong thought? Okay?
Okay, I know I'm about to fuck up somehow. I know that Drew could not have done this, but the case against him is too strong, and if I say he's not guilty, that would be a judicial crisis of its own, and then I'd be on trial. I know I can't just convict him, though. Fuck. Don't make me regret this, Drew.
I have a ring, and so I can just smash it against my desk as a gavel. Like, listen to this, listen to this. How's that? Although evidence has been brought forth regarding Drew's potential engagement in this crime, the court fails to find any proper alibi or motivation for him to do so. And as such,
An alibi literally means the thing that makes him
he's
not
not
guilty.
using the word
don't
correctly, that's
interrupt
all.
me. As such, the court finds this case inconclusive. While this case is not over, for the time being, Drew walks. Investigation is underway, of course, but as of right now, I cannot take immediate legal action against Ride Warrior Drew. Thank you very much, and good night.